branding as well. Cool. So today we're going to talk about brand strategy, and we're actually going to put it to use. If you have the memory of an elephant, you might remember that we'd said we work with 4 people to put their strategies in front of the group. We changed the plan slightly, and we're actually going to be creating brand strategies with you guys together, and it's going to be really, really fun. So I hope you are in the brainstorming spirit. And we wanted for a long time to host this session because the whole topic of brand strategy, I believe, is quite a difficult topic. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors around it. It's very complex. There's a lot of jargon. What is it exactly? And for the longest time during my career, coming into brand from the angle of design, like for me, strategy was basically all of the word stuff that came before we started to work on the visual side of things. And it wasn't until I started to work with strategists and later became a strategist that I started to understand what is brand strategy actually. And then over the years working with Brand Change and all the training sessions that we did, we started to think about how can we actually make that concept much easier. So for those of you who already know the brand thinking canvas really well, so that's basically your framework for the brand, but the brand strategy is the step that comes in front of that. So for us, the way that we kind of conventionally think about brand strategy is like the plan that helps you to become a leader in your market. But when we talk about brand strategy for change, we really think about like, hey, what is the role that brand is going to play to help you fulfill your purpose? And making that as simple as possible is just extremely helpful because you're going to be incredibly busy, incredibly overstretched all the time when you're trying to create change. You're often having to work with smaller or leaner budgets. So how can you have a really powerful tool in your arsenal where you can keep your strategy really clear so that down the line, as you're creating just in the everyday trenches, that you have this powerful plan that you can constantly fall back to, like, hey, this is actually it. Am I putting our strategy, our plan into action? So I will share with you just the tool that we created for this. So last year, and some of you who are here are part of the Brand Change Academy alumni group. What we created was a tool to basically pull all your brand strategy elements onto one page. And we created an online course around that. So that is the Create and Test Your Brand Strategy course. And we wanted to use that key tool today to illustrate some of, how we think that the brand strategy in one page tool works and how you can use it. And we're going to actually use it to create a brand strategy for a product today, which I'm very curious about how that will go. Just one check, someone has their microphone on while typing. So if you can just check if you're not on speaker, if you can mute yourself, that'd be great. Thank you. Cool. So just to check from everyone who's here, who would say like, yeah, I'm a brand strategist. Is there anyone who actually considers like this part of their work? Yeah, Carol, I see. Yeah, Reinko, Marika, Judith. Yeah, cool. Okay. Clarissa. Cool. So on a scale of 1 to 5, for those of you who did not just raise your hands, or who are not brand strategists, like how easy or how hard do you find brand strategy as a concept to understand? Like, let's say 1 is I find it extremely hard. 5 is extremely easy. Like I totally got this. I understand that. I just want to apply it. So where are you on a scale from 1 to 5? You can just paste it in the chat. Oh, good. Cool. Great. So different, like for some people, it's one extreme, for some is the other, but it feels like a lot of people feel like they're on the brink of like fully understanding it, right? So if you're scoring yourself a 3 or higher, it's like, hey, I'm almost there. Like I need that little bit, maybe that last puzzle piece or a little bit more of experience. Cool. So the way that we illustrate the brand strategy on the page is with this particular model. So like I explained before, so the brand strategy for change is really created in order to that why, that big purpose that you're working towards, the change that you want to see. What is the vehicle? So what is the product or the service or the offer that is going to help you get there? Who do you need on board that vehicle? So who do you need to embrace your idea for change? And then how are you going to get there? And the how is the role of the brand. So your brand strategy is going to help you describe how you want people to think and feel about you in order to embrace that concept for change. So in the course, each of these elements takes time and research and preparation. So for this session, we're not actually expecting to be able to do all of that research work in a 1-hour workshop. But what we wanted to do is give you a sense of what happens when you start playing around with these different elements. Because when you have a particular purpose and you change the audience, or you change the product, or you change the route of how you're going to get there, you're going to end up with a completely different brand. So the way that I can give you an example of 2 brand strategies on a page. So for instance, this is the brand strategy for Mama Code, which is a coding school on a mission. So the future that they want to see, so their big purpose is that mothers are really valued members of the tech workforce. They're going to get there by the product, which is a 1-year coding course and mentoring program. It is specifically designed for mothers eager to rejoin the workforce. And the way that the brand is going to get people on board is to make these mothers feel that your code is the best route to a profitable career by positioning Mama Code as a coding school that launches women's careers in tech. Now there's another alternative. So for instance, you could say well, actually, our purpose is to see mothers in tech. We're going to talk to those mothers, but we're not going to focus on the career and the career aspect, but for instance, much more on the personal development aspect, or focusing on the brand on what mothers need and the emotional support that comes with the course. But they've actively made a choice to really focus on that financial aspect and the launching of the career. So this kind of aspirational moment. So that creates a different brand than if you go for the emotional side. And we'll talk about that a little bit more once we start getting into our workshop. Another example, you guys probably, if you've been here before, you know that I always use the example of vegan burgers because they just work so well to explain these concepts. So let's say for the Impossible Burger, the brand strategy for the Impossible Burger. So the purpose is to save Mother Earth. The vehicle for that are plant-based burgers. And the target audience here is meat eaters. So it's a conscious choice to focus on meat eaters. And the brand strategy there is we're going to get meat eaters to think of us as a super tasty, healthier alternative for their next burger night at home by positioning it as the tastiest plant-based burger on the shelf. So if you take something out of this equation, you say, for instance, well, we're going to focus on vegans, we're going to have a completely different how. So for them, for instance, we might focus on the most sustainable option or on the cruelty-free option. So if you play around with the different elements of the strategy, you'll end up with a completely different brand. So we do this exercise in Brand Change Academy, where we create a brand strategy for a product. And we'd like to do that exercise with you guys today. So we created a setup for a workshop where we wanted to take you in groups of 3 to start crafting a brand strategy with your facilitator. So when you and Maya and I will each take some of you into a group, and we're going to create a brand strategy for a sponge, which I always think is the most wonderful fictional example of how can you, in God's name, create a brand for a sponge? It's the most unsexy product there probably is. So imagine that we have all of us here in the session today. We have a fictional client, which is the founder of a company that has created a biodegradable sponge. The sponge can be used for household use or for beauty. So in the bathroom, that means. And we're going to help the founder craft a compelling brand strategy. It's going to help her get people to embrace this product. And we're going to, we prepared 3 different starting points for you guys. So I'll just quickly take you through it, and then I'll open the room for questions if you have any as well. So the first group, you're going to come with me. If you would love to think through what trend conscious mainstream consumers, how they might help us to clean the world of our cleaning waste. So we're going to think how we might get someone that you know from this particular target audience, like what would it take for her or him to embrace this fully biodegradable sponge? Then the second group is going to work with Maya, and you're going to think about the brand strategy that is going to help eco warriors embrace the sponge. So what is it actually going to take to get eco warriors on board? So these people are extremely discerning, they have really high standards when it comes to sustainability and how you sell the product to them. So that'll be a totally different challenge. And then the third group, you will be able to join Wenjiru if you think it would be super interesting to think through what it would take to get hygiene freaks interested in a fully biodegradable sponge. So there is this kind of conventional wisdom that green doesn't clean. And how could we get people who are just interested in the best possible cleaning job to embrace this fully biodegradable sponge? So we provided you with the first 3 as just a starting point, and your facilitators will help you think through that 4th element on the brand strategy on a page tool. I hope that gets you guys excited. I have no idea. And we'll be taking you into the rooms, but I figured if you have any questions about the tool, about brand strategy in general, about these examples, I'm very happy for all of us to kind of answer those as a group before moving into the exercise. Is there anyone who's like, oof, this assignment is a bridge too far, or are people ready to get into the room? Let me know what you think in the, oh yeah, Christine, Matthijs. Okay, 6 sponges, good. Great. Does anyone want a little extra introduction, or shall I leave you all to your hosts?
Yes, I would like to ask, because I enter a bit late after everybody, so sorry for that. So the goal, so just if you can summarize the goal that of the game, which looks really fine and fun.
Yeah. So we want you to come up with the 4th. So the 4th box on the brand strategy and the page tool is about basically the positioning. So what do you want people to think, or how do you want people to think and feel about this biodegradable sponge? So how are you going to position it in their heads? And so if you think about, if you're going to get access to this board, I'm just going to actually share the link up here in the chat right now. So take a look at how we've done that for all the other brands there as well. Here is your Miro link, so you can all come on board. So you'll notice that each of the how statements basically is framed in a get to buy format. So get a certain group of people to do something, like in this case, like, embrace or purchase or support the sponge by positioning the brand in a certain way. So that's the statement that you'll be crafting together in your group. And after we do that exercise for about 20 minutes, And then we're going to come back and we're actually going to imagine now, based on that strategy, what would this brand look like? And we'll give you separate instructions on that so we don't overload you. So I'll leave you, I'll leave your group facilitator to answer maybe any specific questions that you have around your example. Let me open the rooms. If all is well, you should be able to select your own group of room of choice. You should get a prompt that the breakout rooms are open, and you can assign yourself. If you're not getting the prompt, we can either randomly put you in a group, or you can request through the chat to be put into a particular group. So just to repeat, group number 1 is trend conscious mainstream consumers. Group number 2 is the eco warriors, and group number 3 is the hygiene. So Anna, okay, great. Anna is going to go to the mainstream group. Great. Oh, we've got a Clarissa will go to the hygiene. Yeah, oh. Yeah. Let's see. I'm just going to quickly Clarissa. Okay. Clarissa is going to group 3. Marika is going to group 1. Maya is going to group 2. I see that not all of you are getting the right requests. Huh? Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Lathaga, I'm going to put you in group 2. Carol is going to group 2. Great. Congo is going to hygiene. That's interesting. I think this is an interesting exercise also in like who do you identify with, or maybe you want to play the devil's advocate. Iskander is going to eco warriors. That's interesting. Darminder, you want a wild card, so I'm going to put you. Let me see. There we'll go into group 2. Go. So people are not, it's not giving me everything on. So Maya, you should be able to also see the breakout prompts. You're not seeing them?
I know, because I'm a host, I should, but
yeah.
I'm only allowed to join group 3 hygiene.
Okay, let me just, okay. Maya is moving to group 2.
There we go, thank you.
Yeah. Can I change the order? So if I call out your name, can you just turn on your mic and tell me which group you would like? Juliana?
I can go where.
Okay, wherever. Okay. Pratik?
Group 2 or anywhere.
Group 2, okay. Hadas, you don't mind? So then I'm going to put you in hygiene. Marcus?
Open to whatever.
Open to whatever. Okay, then you'll join me. Lungi. Lungi said.
Germaphobes, hygiene.
Hygiene. Okay. Cool. Alida.
I said 1.
You said 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You're invited. Zaylin,
Group 2, please.
group 2. Christine,
Wild card or group 1?
okay. Michelle,
3, please.
Tricia,
Group 1, please.
okay. Magdalena,
Number 1, please.
Cynthia,
1, please.
Reinko,
1, please.
okay. Do or do?
Dorothy, group 1, please.
Group 1. Judith? Hi, Judith. Nice to see you. I'm not hearing from Judith. Nesta?
Hygiene freaks.
Okay, cool. Max, who is there's Max? Which room would you?
Just put me anywhere.
You're gonna get Eco Warriors. Josa?
Anna, I asked you to go to the number 1,
Number
but you
1.
put me on the number 3.
Oh, sorry. Claudia Chow is moving to 1. Yep, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Simone?
Number 2.
Number 2, yes. Carolina?
Number 1.
Okay. Oh, you should have the, Josa, are you getting the prompt to move?
Oh, I think it's asking me to move to 1, but I actually chose 3.
3, okay, here you go. And then, yeah, how you did, tell me. Oh.
Hello.
Sorry for being late, guys. That was such a Zoom disaster. How are you all?
Good.
Good. Okay. Exciting. Yeah. Great. So when you think of trend conscious consumers, who do you like? Is there a person that you're conjuring up? Is there like a demographic? Is this an audience that you have very top of mind?
Me? Can I consider myself the audience for this biodegradable sponge?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Are you a trend conscious mainstream consumer? I would think you're more on the eco warrior side, but maybe I'm projecting.
But I want to see how the mainstream
of the target group for this one?
I would say I'm in between, but I actually have a very specific person in mind when I think of that audience.
Okay, yeah. Can you give me your description of the very specific person?
So it's my cousin's wife.
Okay.
Lovely person. She's in her mid 30s. 3 young kids, very new, designed by really good interior designer house. So the house is really like a showcase for them. And she is currently staying, she's working part-time, but she's also stay-at-home mom, but she's entertaining a lot. And she is, and she's very trend aware and very trendy. And she also likes clean. So I just thought I would imagine her, maybe because I spent the last 2 weeks in Poland and a bit of time with them, but I would imagine her like talking to people, to guests, and just talking about this sponges as something that she discovered. So yeah, so that's the kind of person.
Okay. And is everyone good to go with this person? How will we, what will we call her? Any name is, feel free, Ranko.
Marianne.
Marion.
That's the person I'm thinking of,
Okay.
which pretty well matches the description you just gave. So.
Yeah. So one of the things, I don't know if you guys ever have this, but when Drew and I do these persona creation sessions with clients, we often notice that we end up kind of making like poking a bit of fun at the personas we create. I don't know if this is just part of the psychology, but I can already tell we both love and slightly mock Marion a little bit. So let's see how we do. Okay. So when we're starting to think about this, like how, like what's it going to take for Marion to embrace the sponge? Do you guys, first of all, do you think that is Marion somehow open to any sort of messaging within the sustainability space? Is she also a little bit conscious, or is she just full on top shop, whatever looks good kind of person?
I think she would be this kind of person who knows a bit about being conscious and sustainable, but she's not getting too much into it. She's more of a person who listens to somebody says on the outside. So maybe some kind of, I don't know, influencer area would be an important area for her to get her knowledge about those type of products. And I think it would be, for her, it would be easier to get her attention rather than to keep it long term. Because if she's a trend person, she may be easily distracted by new trends, I think.
Yeah, cool. So some of these ideas are already going to be really, really helpful for the next stage as well of the brainstorm that we're going to do. Sorry, go ahead.
I think she's not very deep in her conscious, you know. It's something more superficial, buy things that people say is green or something like this.
Not a very critical thinker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me,
cool.
I think she might know the basics of what ingredients or materials she's supposed to look out for, like avoid and use, and she would look at the label, and if the label says what she wants to see, then she'll buy it.
Good.
I think that's maybe giving her too much credit already.
I mean, green
that takes some effort.
Yeah. And green is kind of trendy at the moment, so anything that says green probably.
Yeah, well, it has to be in the form of a label, right? Not you don't check the ingredients list.
No.
It has to be.
That's the front side needs to be green. So greenwashing is fine.
I think she thinks of herself as like green conscious and sustainable, but when there is a choice between being trendy and impressing and just going for really the green, she would go for the trendy, I think.
And also she might just like we've mentioned before, like the influencer. So there's these websites or there's the specific shops that are green. So she would just go to that shop and find it there and assume that it's good and buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Probably needs like affirmation from someone else as well.
Yeah.
That's sort of in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can hear from someone on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we already have an influencer strategy on the marketing side. Cool.
Yeah, like the package girl.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about this structure of the get to buy, so what I'm hearing you guys say in a little bit of a focus of the initial who is we would get women in their mid-30s. Are they still millennial? They're millennials, right? No, they're Gen
No.
Yes.
I guess not.
Yeah.
I think it's still millennial, 30.
I think
is-
I think
Yeah,
we're the older
mid-30s, yeah.
millennials. Yeah.
Yes, I'm still a millennial. I'm not wise.
Yeah. Okay. So I get female millennials to well, I guess we have two options that we could say to we could say something like become loyal fans. There's several ways to do this exercise. So you could say loyal fans or passionate users, or to simply like embrace the sponge as their go-to cleaning tool. We can come up with different options if you like. Is there anyone who's like, oh, I haven't I'd like to put a particular lens on this?
I think the top two are interesting if you want to develop a brand that can be used for other products again later, because the bottom one is so focused on the sponge.
Interesting. Yeah. So you want to think about this really as the brand and not just the product. Like this could be a whole lifestyle.
Well, that's the question. I mean, if the company's motive is to continue development of other products later on, you would be happy to have loyal fans.
Yeah.
I think you kind of need that, because like I don't feel like Miriam is very easy to become a loyal fan of a sponge in general. Like if there's a next trendy wave of new sponges, you're probably gonna get that one, unless you have like good convincing whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking to make her feel she's more conscious because of the sponge or something like this.
Yeah. So discover.
There's like a badge of there's not much status to get from a sponge, but it might be like
but
like
she can
that...
feel doing something for the planet or something like that, doing her part,
It's like a badge of whatever. Something like that. Yeah.
This is a green certificate or something like that.
So she can take a flying trip to anywhere, but she's using the sponge, so she's good for the planet.
Yeah, I feel like we're not being very nice to poor Marianne.
No.
And I feel like if she's really trend conscious, then she cares most about the things that she buys, that she wears, that you actually show the world. And so for her, the sponge is like sort of low because you use it at home. So I feel like she'd be most likely to buy it if it were easy and part of a brand that she already related to. So it's really about, she's never going to become passionate about it. So how do you make it related to things that are familiar and that it's easy to get to, right?
Yeah.
Influencers, I think.
Or brand association, right?
Brand association, yes.
Like I buy Myers a lot, and the Myers brand. It's a big sort of sustainable cleaning brand in the US.
It's a soap brand,
yeah, it's soap. Yeah.
So another thing that you're just that your comment triggers, Trisha, is this idea that she could think of this sponge as the prettiest cleaning tool on her kitchen counter.
Yeah.
So if this is someone who's super motivated by interior design, then the design of the product needs to be extremely attractive and very unique, almost like an art object, which is secretly a biodegradable sponge.
Right, like an OXO brand sponge and not a Scotch yellow, ugly yellow and green sponge.
Yeah.
That was my question. And like, how much do we know about the product itself? Can we influence it? We can.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Because I think it would have to look good and maybe come in some kind of like trendy container or something that can look cool on her kitchen.
Yeah.
Can we also tap into because she's influenced from the outside and she focuses and she likes things that looks nice, and we can also tap into the emotions and getting rid of the stuff that joy. So we tap into cleaning the house and getting rid of dirt, and then the house will be cleaner, and tap into the emotions of that.
Yeah, I think
I
it might be that might be a hygiene freak thing, but for instance, if we think that Marianne, for whom interior design is so important, if we think that actually part of that feel is like a super clean, neatly organized, like Marie Kondo type of home, then we might be able to tap into that. I see that, is it Alicia who raised her hand?
Aleida.
Aleida, sorry.
Aleida, yes. And no, I had met Marianne in my life, and I must say it was very interesting because she took me to, we were in the kitchen, and she says, well, you see, I'm an eco, so I'm using this brush now. I'm not using any sponge anymore because sponges are bad. So she says, and she explicitly shows me, and she said, and my husband, he buys the sponge so he can wash the dishes with his sponge. So in other words, it was important, the eco side. It wasn't a question of money, because let's say if somebody has the house to entertain and so on, money is not an issue. But it was interesting that it was clear in her mind, this is more expensive, but this is my eco side, and this is my husband, and he does whatever. But I mean, so yeah, her side was important for the eco side, and again, money was not an issue. So a natural sponge can be really even more valuable because it's natural, does not have the normal shape than a square plastic made sponge. So it may be more expensive to acquire, and eco to use. So it adds up to the prestige.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you're highlighting, I think is so true, right? That different people in a household, like one might make the purchasing decision, but thinking about what are all the other motivations of people in the house. Like, I don't know if you guys know the Sponge Daddy, like this American happy face sponge, and it looks like a smiley face. And so, for instance, I've noticed in other families that I've visited that kids are more likely like, oh, can I use their fun sponge? And so they help with chores, which is just a funny psychological element of it that I never thought about. Christine, you have your digital hand up. Do you want to?
Yes, I actually, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I actually was referring to something the last thing that you said about the kids playing with the fun sponge. And I think I have a part of Marianne inside of me. And I think something that I really appreciated with eco products and made me want to buy them is what happens after. So if the sponge is something you can put in the earth and then it grows back, or you can dispose of it yourself, like by planting it. Because I remember I bought a lot of pencils for my nephews and nieces just because they said that you can plant the pencil afterwards, right? So if there's something we could do with the sponge after, I think that is something that would trigger her to buy it.
If she's interested in design, could it be design related?
Design related, or something eco-related. You can plant it and it does this, or you could put it in the water and dissolves, or I don't know, something that you can do after with it.
So out of these, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 different options here on the board. So which one would you like to, which one shall we take forward to think through? So see the sponge as the produced object, or become loyal fan, or embrace the sponge as a go-to cleaning tool, or oh, we already have an image.
I put This is a biodegradable sponge used here in Brazil.
Yeah.
And it's a plant, you know.
Yeah.
So this is biodegradable, and I don't know if we can make this something like this, or this is the front.
In the next round, we're gonna talk about what the sponge actually looks like. So we're gonna, yeah. So we're gonna, for now, what I want to do is get to that, like, let's say, we can do quite an exaggerated brand strategy, so that we can really kind of take these 3 different directions to the max. So if we're thinking that Marianne, female millennials, super trend conscious, thinks about interior design, like what would be a kind of interesting brand strategy that you guys want to pursue. So if you want to just, so we have these 5. Which guys do you want to bring forward? You can add here on the side, you can just pull a little circle if you just want to create a vote with your circle. You can put your circle on the sticky, on the sticky that you would like us to take, or you can add in the chat. So we have a couple at the bottom. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top. Okay. So maybe what we can do is we can think about making it easy and discovering the conscious side. We can see if we can bring that into the brand expression, for instance. So let's see what happens if we say, see her sponge as the prettiest object on her kitchen counter. So obviously that is already meaning something for what it should look like. Now, how can we bring that onto a brand level? So we want her to think about, we want to get female millennials to see the sponge as the prettiest object on her kitchen counter by positioning it as, now maybe we've already answered that question, that happens sometimes. But maybe Reinko, to your point, we want to kind of also lift it up a little bit out of the project zone. So we might be able to say, if we had a name for it, pretty, pretty sponge. The most beautiful way to clean the planet, or something like that. Positioning the brand as the most beautiful.
I really like the most beautiful way to clean the planet, because I think we still should have that, a little bit of that green element, sustainable element.
Matthijs, is it Matthijs? I'm not seeing the names to the people who have their hand raised, unfortunately. So I see a digital hand up.
Sorry, it was from a little while ago, actually, to connect to the other one, but it was more about can you create like a loyalty program or collab with other brands to sort of get into their heads, but like, I don't know, make a Gucci collab, get it like connected to bigger things so that they latch on easier, basically.
Yeah, cool. So I think let's take that idea and we're going to use that on the second board. So hold that thought. We're just going to all gather back in the main room, compare, and then we'll start a second round. I know it's pretty fast, but let's see how we go. So I'll bring you all, if you can all leave the room, we'll see each other in the main room, and then I can reopen the same rooms later. See you guys. Hi, looks like we don't have our other participants back yet. I'll see if I can find. I am when Jira is saying they need a little bit more time. Do you guys just want to move forward secretly with the second board without anyone else knowing? Okay.
I have
Cool.
one doubt, Anna.
Yeah, come.
This kind of thinking, we can do this before we define the product, or we already have the product and have to, you know, what we have to change when
yeah.
we.
So this is really depends from case to case. So if you're a really early stage, obviously you would be in a position, and you're the founder, you'd be in a position to rethink like, oh, what does this mean for the product? In some cases, you just have the product and you have to deal with it. So coming up with this idea of like, yeah, we want it to be a beautiful object of art, when it's just like a blobby sponge, is not going to work. So I think it just practically, you have to adapt to the situation. I think what you see with, if you're working on your own product and you're able to influence it, I think it's really smart to pursue a product that's truly completely integrated with the audience and the positioning. So I think this often happens, and Marika might be able to speak to this as well, is that kind of in the sustainability space or in the fair trade space, we kind of try to create like, you know, we have a round peg in the square hole and we try to push it through. But what you're really hoping to do is be able to kind of create this seamless experience of the story with the product itself, with the target audience. And so if you see like, hey, there's this huge market of women that is not yet buying into this sustainable industry, and how might we be able to get them on board, we would need to also think about what does the product actually look and feel like, I think. And not just think about how do I create a packaging with a cute story on it. Cool. Hey, Maya.
Hey, guys.
Hi. I know that was very quick.
Are we the first to crash the party of the group?
No, yeah. So we were just answering some questions. So Claudia had a good question, which is like, to what degree are we actually able to influence the product? So do you do this before the product is created? And so we were discussing like, well, in some cases you can, and I think it's ideal, but in some cases you just have to face the facts that you have a product and you can't change that. Do you want to just exchange some experiences? What was the atmosphere in your group, Maya? Did you feel like you got anywhere?
Well, yes, we got a lot of associations with what the sponge could look like, what it could be used for. Already kind of diving a little bit into the second round, there seems to be an agreement in group 2 that this is a bathroom sponge, and that the positioning is all about taking pleasure from the fact that you're cleaning yourself while also cleaning up the earth. For that, we have 4 different draft statements that have been formulated somewhat differently, but overall there seems to be an agreement that it's the concept of cleaning yourself while cleaning the earth.
Does anyone from group 1 want to speak to our plan? Maybe Anna, I think so we focused in first on who is actually the trend conscious consumer. And so Anna had an idea of exactly the person she was thinking of.
So yes, please feel free to jump in. So we thought about somebody who's a millennial, mid-30s. She's very house proud. She has a very nicely designed home, and for her, that she's the trendy person who really likes to impress people. She follows the influencers, and it was funny when you were saying, Maya, because we didn't even question for what the sponge is. We kind of assumed that it would be on the kitchen counter. So I actually thought, oh, it's a great idea, but it could be a bathroom sponge. So for us, it's a kitchen sponge. And we also had 5 different options. I think we decided that for her, the more important thing is that it is actually very pretty. So it's like the prettiest sponge to clean the planet with, but the brand is led by the aspirational and cool and that sustainable thing is a little bit byproduct for her, although she likes to think of herself as a conscious consumer.
Yeah, so we're kind of, it's the Trojan horse brand strategy, right? So
yeah,
this is also something we explain in the course. Like there's often with these products or services for change, you have kind of two routes, which is you go and you use the angle with which you think you can best get people to embrace this, which are angles that work for them in the mental space where they are. Or you could go full on challenger brand or like double down on the audience that is already interested in that. So we always like the first we call the Trojan horse brand strategy, which is like you have the beauty on the outside and the sustainability on the inside. Whereas, for instance, creating a challenger brand that says like, we're going, all dirty sponges, we're going to create an anti-dirty sponge campaign, and we're going to make everyone who uses conventional sponges look bad, and we're going to make all the conventional sponge companies look bad. Like that would be a completely different brand strategy. So I think this is what I really enjoy about these exercises, is this just kind of blank canvas of like, okay, what are all our options to get people on board with this? I'm guessing Madru is still busy with her group. So we can go into the second round, realizing that we're a little late, but I know that you guys were already creating and generating a lot of different ideas for the second exercise. So we have, for round two, imagining the brand. So based on this strategy, what the product would look like, who the brand ambassador would be, or at what event you would promote this product would be completely different. So we're going to go back to the boards, and you'll see underneath your board, you'll see this white board with the 3 stickies. And that's where we'll be pasting some more of our ideas. So if everything is correct, you should be able to go back into the room that you were just prompted to go into. If you go into the navigation at the bottom and you don't see breakout rooms, just tap the arrows and you can go back. See there. Hi guys. So I think some of you are already happily pasting stuff onto our brand strategy and the page. We can bring some of those down. So I'm just gonna bring those onto the board. So we have a Marilyn Monroe sponge. We have the loofah. Oh, the origin sponge. Bamboo charcoal infused. That is an object of art. Cool. So what do you think? Which of these 4 would be the choice of Marianne? Or maybe all of them would be options.
I think she'll go either for the black one if she's a like minimalist type of person, and on the opposite if she's very happy, colorful, then the one. Yeah, it depends on.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting choice as well, right? So I know, so in the book Brand to Change, there's a guest essay from Stella van Himbergen, and she talks about 5 different types of consumers of sustainable products. But I think this is more wildly that you have people who are into basics and people who are into, so potentially would be the minimalist category, and then you have people who are into celebrating life. And so you have these different, and the different designs will obviously appeal to different audiences. So that's interesting to think about that from that point of view as well. And who do you guys think would be the perfect, like who would be the perfect brand ambassador for this? Oh, a guest design. Should we just create the sponge? Like, should I just find a biodegradable sponge somewhere and we just make this thing? I'm feeling it already. So who would you, if you went ahead, Aleida, who would you hire as your brand ambassador, or who would you enlist?
No, sorry. It's just I wanted to say from before is just because if she's so fancy, she seems to be a fancy person. She would be looking at appearing as a mother that is taking care of her family for the future. So I think the environmental aspect, the sustainability aspect of it are going to give her all the tickets, the pluses that she can say, well, I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, whatever, it could be gold color, real red color, but it is sustainable. I'm taking care of my family for the future. And then she can be a leader in that sense. I can see that.
Yeah.
I'd say that. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we haven't articulated yet, but I think from research, we know that people don't just want to do good, they also want to be seen to do good. So I think, was it Trisha who said like, well, the sponge is is inside the house, or was it Anna? And so I think this idea that you actually love the sponge so much that you leave it on the counter, and therefore like what it looks like on the counter is really important as well, is something not to be underestimated. Cool. So already have some product ideas, a subscription service, guest designer. Cool. I like the person who, sorry, Trisha, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's Jessica Alba, the actress. So she already has this brand, and it's a $1 billion brand called Honest.
Yeah.
And I think she's this sponge sort of fits in with her ethos. And the sort of background story on that, I think, was about, having products for her baby that were not toxic and, that were healthy. So so that's a brand ambassador. But the other thing about the sponge, given the time that we're in, is a lot of sponges now are antibacterial, like they somehow magically kill the germs. Not sure how they do that, but can this sponge be like boiled or thrown in the microwave or whatever to kill the germs on it? That's like a big thing right now with COVID is germs.
Yeah. Treated.
Then the plastic also, plastic is also a big issue. That's why, I mean, plastic sponges we need to get them out because they release plastic microfabric in the water that goes down the drain. So, I mean, it's not just germs, but it is actually the toxicity to the pollution to the sea, to the oceans.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely would be the motivation to start this new sponge, and then also get it into as many households as possible. Christine?
Yes, I don't know if you know, for the brand ambassador, Laura Singer, I think.
Yeah.
She's the she's the package-free creator, and she did TED Talks, so she's a very good influencer, and she became famous just because she had that jar of trash that she kept for like a year, and all her trash was in it. So I think she would be a great brand ambassador too.
Yeah, perfect. I think because we also have 3 examples that we created as a team for each board. So I think you'll be surprised to see that you might have just hit the exact same person as someone on our team did. Very funny. Cool. So what kind of event would you promote this? So if you're thinking about like, well, there's a fair, or there's a talking event, or there's a party or something. Magdalena, do you have any ideas?
I had an idea, if I can go back a little bit, about the brand ambassador.
Yeah, of course.
There is this cook, the chef, who's his name is Max Lamana. and
Okay.
he's really into cooking in a sustainable and conscious way with zero waste. So I think that if it's a kitchen sponge, that could be something that could be beneficial, both in terms of the area of the subject and the touch points for her to reach the information or the type of communication that the brand would send out.
Yeah, super cool. I think that's a really interesting, like totally like an area that I hadn't thought about. Like you take people from, you don't take professional cleaners to talk about this, but you think about the chefs. It's really
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to think what, not only about the persona herself, but also what will she do with the product? What is her typical way around kitchen sponge, if you say so? Like, when does she use that one, the sponge, or I don't know, just like different types of situations in her life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
insights.
Yeah. So I'm guessing also then like cooking events, test kitchens, any sort of like food festival might be a nice place. Thinking about the fact that she has this interior design.
There are also events around, you know, like here in Paris, we have Maison and Objet. So there are this interior design big trade shows that are also open for general public. So I think, and they're usually quite high end. So I would think those kind of events, each country has it. I really like the idea of associating it with a brand ambassador who is not a cleaner by a chef, because it again makes it more aspirational and more interesting.
Yeah, I think also this idea of the guest designer. So if you, I don't know if you guys know the story of Method cleaning products, but they had a collaboration with, I forget his name, is an Egyptian designer with very bold, outrageous kind of design. And he designed the first packaging for them. And so kind of designing objects out of this biodegradable and having that name then as promotion, I think would be great. Bye, Tricia. Super fun to hang out. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Cool. So I think also, yeah, the design events, like,
because I'm not sure.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Anna.
Because I have no idea how much you can make. You can do with sponge, design the sponge itself, but we were talking about it being on the kitchen counter. So yeah, so maybe the idea of having the container being designed by a different person.
Yeah.
And also, you know, nice and stylish, but also green at the same time.
I think that it would be also interesting to point out that even though the visual aspect of the sponge is important to her, there's also the part about the sponge being biodegradable. So maybe there should be something around that to show her that it's cool and it's still positioning her in the right place to use those types of products. So maybe some kind of, I don't know, like pop-up event around biodegradable household or stuff like that. Because it's both cool in a way of when somebody is an aspiring person, but also it's around the subject matter, I think.
Yeah, and it's I think there's this whole idea to play with what you're like, an idea that you're triggering of like the fact that you would buy, like, let's say you buy a $10 like high-end, like very artsy fartsy sponge, but it's biodegradable, so you can go and bury it in your garden and it'll just be gone. Like, throw away an art piece. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. Bye, Renko. Yeah, cool. I'm going to I think Maya and Mandira are also headed to the last notes. So I'm going to pull us all together, and then we're going to do a reveal of the boards that we had prepared for you guys to compare. So sit tight while we get the rooms back together.
I'm actually excited about buying that sponge.
I know.
Let's make it. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm like, where can I get it?
Yeah, no, so the reason, so the idea, like how I ended up with the idea for the sponge was there's I think it's a Seinfeld episode where George has this new job as like a creative something somewhere, and they like the first briefing that he gets is a sponge, and like he's just like, oh, what do I do with sponge? And it's such an unsexy object at first, but then when you start to unpack it, it's just amazing. And yeah, that's why also with Brand and Change Academy, why we always love to use that exercise, because it's a level of simplicity that you can get creative. It's of course much harder to be creative about something that's much more complex, like a B2B service, but still it kind of gets the idea across quite well. Cool.
This is nice because it's something everyone has at home.
Yeah, also true. Yeah. What we often feel is that the conversation around brands is very easy to have around consumer products and much harder to have around any other sort of product that we don't all have in common. So even though like we picked the sponge now, but if we would do it again, it'd be really interesting to do it about something a little bit more abstract, to see how would that change the level of ideas that you can generate. Because I really, really believe that you can generate just as many cool ideas for something that's more complex, but you just require a little bit more time maybe, which wasn't in the cards for today. Okay, see you on the other side. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Do we have Wenju back as well?
Yes.
Yes, Wenju. Sorry we missed you in the last round. Do you want to give us an update on what you guys have been creating? Quick update before we go to the reveal of the examples that we had created.
Yeah, sure. Is there anyone from Zoom 3 who wants to take us through it? Or am I the designated facilitator? Yeah, okay. I can share my screen. So we were working with the hygiene freaks. I hope you can all see my screen. And so we kind of spent a few minutes going through the audience and trying to flesh them out and kind of understand who the hygiene freak is. And so we thought they are germaphobes, people who identify as having OCD. And so they're also concerned about not only personal cleanliness, but also cleanliness in their environment and their spaces. And so we thought, how can we kind of work into their personality in terms of cleaning? And so we want to take away the guilt of their cleaning habits. So these are people who clean a lot, probably putting out more cleaning products than the average person. And they also have a fear of dirt and unhygienic spaces. So they are on the extreme of cleaning. And so when we got to our proposition, we thought that what we want them to do is we had a few examples, they're all in the same direction. So, and then we got to a point where like, we don't need to copyright it as much. And so we want to get hygiene freaks to feel comfortable or to relax about the effect of their cleaning habits on the environment by offering biodegradable sponges that do not harm the environment. And so we arrived at this by thinking that these are people who are going to put out 10 sponges a week, whether we're there or not. So we can't control how much they clean, but then we can give them something that takes away the guilt of their cleaning habits. And so, yeah, that was our positioning statement.
Cool. I like that. I'd never thought about that, but that seems so like they're the like the carbon guzzling cars of the cleaning space. And what did you guys arrive when you started thinking about what does the product and actually look like? Did that come very natural?
It did. It was we can share that as well. So we thought we need minimalist design. So we don't need any crevices that hold that or anything. And then it also seemed a bit obvious to me that we need a white sponge. So the moment it's filthy, it goes in the bin. And then we also thought about practicality. So these are people who are cleaning everything from the stove to surfaces. And so we need it to fit in, the hand. And then Michelle had the very interesting insight that you can only buy it in bulk. So we have like a pack of a dozen or 100 because these are people who are going through a lot of sponges. And then we thought to also have it have a rigid shape to kind of reflect that clean freak aspect that these are people whose cleaning habits are not going to change. Yeah.
Maya.
Yes.
What did you guys arrive at?
Yeah, maybe you can share the screen, or do you want me
Yeah,
to?
I'll share it for you.
Yeah, so we still assume that we started the conversation on the second part, assuming that we are targeting, we want to influence people, waste warriors, I'm sorry, into thinking of this as the cleanest sponge for their bodies and for the environment. To the point of Simona and Avi, the reason why we chose the bathroom and the cleaning sponge of the body was we thought that's easier moment to feel good about doing something for yourself and the planet rather than when you're doing dishes or cleaning the kitchen or any other household chores. Then that said, it would need to have a very natural look and feel, although we have played before with some interesting concepts of having a signaling look and feel, like a warning mechanism. Correct me if I'm wrong, got the name, I'm so sorry, of somebody who described this very beautifully in our group. So natural look and feel, but then the branding element and the packaging and the logo would be playing on the level of the warrior and activism. However, to support Simone's good point, more peaceful activism rather than, die-hard Greenpeace shepherds activism to attract a bigger group. As the conversation evolved, we went into immediate association of having a famous artist or a famous movie star who is into sustainability and invests a lot in it, defending this brand and acting as an ambassador. But soon the conversation went more towards actually asking somebody that is perhaps an ordinary girl or a boy that is of a younger age and people can relate to and has a good following on perhaps TikTok. So somebody that people would be willing to imitate. And then the discussion also went towards this being more opportune for a younger group. Towards the end, an interesting spill was, let's think about New Zealand and sport clubs. And him leading actually this movement where, the whole group actually cleans themselves with this sponge after the game. And then the focus would be not so much on the cleaning element, but more the afterlife of the sponge and what do you then do with it? And the movement that would be created on this TikTok would be around disposal of the sponge. And do we bring it back to the ocean where it came from? Or do we choose either gardening or name it, assuming it can dissolve in earth? So the movement could also be like do as or follow, and then a specific person in a soccer team that chooses gardening versus chooses to go diving and bring it back to the ocean. So dispose as.
Cool, very nice. Really interesting to see all these different directions emerge, huh? Let's see, do we still have Christine or Claudia from group 1 that may want to speak to what we came up with? Or maybe Magdalena?
So we as you can see, we're talking about, we have already the visuals. We were thinking about which one should we choose based on what kind of person our client or audience is. And for the brand ambassador, we thought about on one side somebody who's in the sort of cooking kitchen fields, which is, for example, the chef, the sustainable chef. On the other hand, we have those for example, Jessica Alba, who is an actress you probably know, that she's more of a person who's on the peripheral, I would say, area of the product, because she I guess would use it herself. So that would be another touch point. Laura Singer, I think one of the people said, I don't know her, but I think it was something about being zero waste, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
So that would be also an interesting approach. There is also the case of inviting guest designers or influencers every month, because we thought that she's a very, very aspiring person. So those type of collaboration would be something that would convince her to stay with the brand for longer. And as far as the events or touch points that would help promote, that would be interesting to involve some cooking events or food festivals, so she can see the product, how it works and how it looks like for herself. Also design events and pop-up events in more of a sense that she would see herself the sustainable aspect of the product. So on one hand, we have the visual area, which is very important to her, so it looks right. But on the other hand, we still want to emphasize the sustainability. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything to add.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to.
Yeah, I think what was interesting about this process, I don't know if you guys had that in the other group, was that I feel like by choosing a very particular audience with a very, so knowing this is a woman, this is a particular generation, and this is what she cares about in her home, I feel like that really drove a lot of like direction in what you're then doing, which by the looks of it, like when I see board number 2 and I think about, for instance, like, yeah, this is a product that would be in partnership or maybe even endorsed by She Shepherd, which is just such a different thing, that's endorsed by, you know, younger people, for instance, who are making call to action to like a pack of 100, buy it in bulk, super, you know, hygiene freaks with OCD. It's really cool to see those 3 different directions. So if you are interested, you can go to the bottom of the board. So I'll share my screen so we can take you through it. Oh, you can already see it. You can see it here. So for instance, for our first group, so our millennials, it's a makeup sponge rather than a cleaning sponge that we had envisioned for the trend conscious woman. The brand ambassador might be Kim Kardashian. And we would promote this at beauty events like retailers like Boots or Atos or other drugstore teams. I think you guys came up with something much more fun than that. For the eco warriors, so the very natural looking sponge, and that's why we actually had Lauren Singer, so founder of the Package Free Shop, also known as Trashes for Tossers. Vegan food events, organic stores, so very specifically on places where you can already find those groups. And then the third, the hygiene freaks. Well, in this case, we stole the Sponge Daddy sponge here on top. But the idea that cleaning makes you happy. And to my great surprise, if you go and search, there are people who are cleaning influencers. So I'm assuming that the people that follow them also love to clean. So in this case, we chose Jessica Toll. And there might be house and home fairs. And if you tie in this idea of like a very clean ocean, with happy coral, could you do a happy coral photo competition? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this super quick session to give you an idea of like the tool and how we use it and how you can play around with it. The article that I mentioned earlier about Stella von Himberg and the different audiences for sustainability, you can find the link to that on the board here. We are giving everyone who's part of this session, we're giving you 25% off the course of Create and Test Your Brand Strategy. You can follow the links on the board to get the discount. We have a link for people already members of the open community and people who are not members. Wajira is going to share a link with you guys to give us some feedback, what you thought of this session, and anything you might want us to address next. So any skill you want to learn or a topic that you want to discuss. Yeah, we barely made it in the hour and a half that we had planned, but it was a really fun experience for me. I'm very happy to stay on a little bit longer to chat if you guys want to. Were there any topics, Maya or Wanjiri, that you felt were good for maybe like general, like to discuss with the whole group? Any common themes that came up?
I think for us, the question on kind of arriving at the how was like could use some more time. We kind of really zoomed through it. And so like, how do you bring in the product and your big insight and the audiences that you're trying to target, and then how do you come and then distill them? Which was like, yeah, I feel like that could be an entire session by itself.
Yeah, for sure. I think I definitely don't want to give the impression that you just arrive at an interesting positioning statement in like 20 minutes. That's very true. Yeah, you need more time for sure. Bye, Michelle. Bye, Lindy. Bye, Marika. Is there anyone here who's working on a brand strategy of their own at the moment and who's like, well, you know, now that I've done this, I have some questions about my own product or service, or something maybe you're doing with a client. Nesta.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
So I am actually working on a brand strategy of a concept that I have in mind, but it feels like there are two different brands, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of confused on whether or not I should do two different brands, or if there's a way to connect those two different brands, because it's the same thing. It's just you have a brand for B2B, and then you have the brand for employees.
Ah, okay.
If that makes sense.
So, yeah, so there's a couple of, well, I have a couple of follow-up questions for you. So sometimes what, in the case that you're describing, what you can have is a platform brand. So a brand that connects two groups together to the same product, but I don't hear you describe that. So it's not like Uber where you have drivers and riders, or Airbnb where you have guests and hosts. You're not connecting them. No.
It's more like the company itself creates concepts that they then sell to other businesses that can use for product innovation or marketing or whatever they would like. But the way that's being done is by using people who might never had a job offered like that. So giving those the opportunities to just showcase their talent, even though they haven't have a fancy education for it, or the background limits them to do the job. So I'm trying to get the link of one group to the other.
So you're linking potential employees with employers?
No, not really. So I'm linking. No, that's not what I'm doing. So we're creating a concept. Let's say we're doing the sponge thing, where you have to create a brand for the company that creates biodegradable sponges. The way you would go by that normally is your employees that you have in house. You have like a market designer, you have a graphic designer, you have a copywriter and stuff like that. In this case, your graphic designer would be someone probably just that got out of high school or someone who never went to college. It's literally just giving those the opportunity to actually design something for a client who would never hire them.
Okay. I think that's a really interesting. So you're in the phase where you're still, let's say, figuring out what the product or service is exactly. So have you done prototyping with both groups, or have you put this in front of the people who you want to hire, these, let's say, higher risk, but maybe higher reward type of people? Is it a value proposition that you feel is resonating with that second group?
Well, I only tested it with the people I would hire to do the job.
Yeah.
But I haven't really tested it out with the people I want to sell the end product to.
Yeah. So I think this is it's a super interesting challenge, because what you're trying to get at is a brand that is both, let's say, makes it appealing for people with non-established skills to join, but also for another group to find it appealing to go for a riskier option. So what is a brand that would attract me, for instance, as a commissioner of creative work, to take a risk on one of the people in your creative network, for instance. So I think in a way that does make it a platform brand, because you do you don't want to have to constantly feed two completely different brands. You want to, if you're like most people, you don't have so many resources. So you want to be able to create one place where both the employers or the clients and the, let's call them creatives in this case, come together to kind of understand each side of the puzzle, right? At least that would be my first instinct.
Kind of, but they don't work for the client, they work for the company in the middle.
Okay, like that. So you're a matchmaker.
Basically.
Yeah. So then the question still is, how do you make the matchmaker as a brand? What is the matchmaker? So let's say your what is matchmaking. Your audience is both the creative as well as the client, because you need to attract talent as well as the clients, or maybe you don't have to attract talent publicly. Maybe that's something you do behind a closed door, and you only market yourself to the clients, for instance. But it's still interesting to think about that perspective of like, how do you make that matchmaking company in the middle? How do you create a brand where the creatives feel comfortable working for you from when they see your materials there, and where the employers feel like, hey, this is a really interesting opportunity for me.
Thank you. Thank everybody else in the chat for sending the suggestions.
Christine, you had your hand up, and I see Darminder as well.
Yes, I'm trying to actually develop a brand strategy for a project that I'm doing. So the idea is that when I saw the graphic that you showed at the beginning, I think that I figured out the why and the what. So number 1 and 2, but I can't figure out number 3 and 4. So our project is a NFT collection, right? So we're doing a collection of 10,000 NFTs, and we're doing it in Haiti, right? So it's a women-based only NFT project, and we're doing it to support Haitian artists in the Caribbean, because when you think about Haiti or you think about the Caribbean in general, you don't think about innovative in tech. So we wanted to change the narrative and be like, yeah, we're part of the new NFT trend, right? But the idea is that, or who was like the diaspora Haitian community more in tech, and or how was, okay, we're going to do training sessions. But after that, we discovered that indeed these people do not have wallets or don't know how to buy cryptocurrency, and having them go to all these spaces to actually get the NFT is like the most difficult thing ever. So I'm rethinking the whole who and how of the brand strategy to see how I can get to the goal, which is actually selling the 10,000 collection. So it's a bit of a rediscovering and re-strategizing.
Yeah. Yeah. Maya, I think maybe this is a Maya question. Or maybe Maya is like, what the hell?
Oh, that's my reflection also in the workshop. Like, I feel I'm hesitant to jump into immediately into depth of things without understanding it properly, let's say. And during the conversation, there were a lot of good ideas, and then this is probably like just my personal deficiency, right? I feel I would want to talk them all out before we move on. Otherwise, I feel I'm collecting a lot of ideas, but it isn't a well-informed decision or consensus within the group to move in a certain direction. So, yeah, it's kind of judgment until you know more.
Are you saying that you cannot create a brand strategy for your company in 20 minutes?
Ooh, I am. I think I am.
Yeah. So I think, no, I totally understand. And I think what you're describing, Christine, is like, sometimes you have like this idea for change, and then just practically, it's really hard to execute it, right? So I think what is important to keep in mind is that what we're talking about here in terms of brand strategy is really like, how do we want people to think and feel about it? Not necessarily like, is the product itself the right product? Or is this like, can I build a business around this product? So that's not kind of part of this process. But I think trying to pull it through the lens of communication does allow you to think through, like, does this make sense? And so what you're saying about like, well, we had this idea, like we want to have Haiti be part of, to be seen to be part of this world of tech and innovation, which we, which you are. So it's fun to see you again, because we met at the at that incubator event. Yeah. So I think what's interesting there is, I guess you have to take a step back and think about like, well, if is my intention still the same, is the purpose the same, but now I'm going to come at that purpose through a different what? Or is the what the same, but now I have to, like, I'm actually solving a different problem. I think that's what is always quite difficult, because it's kind of, it's also a choice often that you're emotionally connected to, but yeah, but I wanted it to do this, but the product or service doesn't end up it's hard to make it result in that. So I do commiserate. Yeah.
I think that definitely the exercise today, like describing the person that will actually buy the product, is very helpful, because there are different type of people that buy technically NFTs. You have the NFT savvies, and there are really hardcore, that would be the second group in this case of the sponge, right? That are very deep into it, and they're looking for all the different characteristics of the NFT, the smart contract, the coding, the utility behind it, the rarity. And you have the people that are just the trendy people, like the group number one, that's like, oh, this is cool. This is a new concept of art, and I want to buy into this. So understanding the perspective of the different people and why would they want to buy it. Anyways, that exercise really helped me to see, okay, how can I get these different people to consider the product and the events that I'm supposed to do to get them there.
Yeah, and I think what the fact that you tuned into the Haitian diaspora within the tech community is a really interesting one, because I think people are often reluctant to be very specific, but in a way, if you know, like, well, that community is 20,000 people. We know where they hang out. We know that we only need 500 of them to succeed, because we need to raise X amount of money, and we want each person to invest X. It just makes that your communication campaign and everything, once you're launching, that much more effective, because you know exactly who you're talking to. So I think that's really impressive.
Thanks. I shared it in the link if anybody wants to take a look at it. And give me
Yeah,
your-
cool. Very nice. Thanks for sharing, Christine. Darminder, you've had your digital hand up. I'm sure like all the digital blood has drained.
Yeah. No, it was actually for Nesta. Because I work with a company called Black Bear in the Netherlands. They're located in Amsterdam. And what they actually did, students have normally the challenge of getting experience, because when they go to the labor market, companies say, oh, we want somebody to have with experience. So what they have done, so they hire students, they get paid very well, and they ask companies, okay, what kind of problems do you have in your legal, finance, operations? And then they say, okay, give me your problem to us, and we will give you the Gen Z team of Gen Z team of young people who will solve your problem fast, quickly, and with new insights, instead of going to the traditional consultancy firms. So they started with 6 people. I think they're now already working with more than 20 or 40 people in this company within 2 years. So they are actually outperforming with this model and value the traditional consultancy firms and banks who have normally this domain of consultancy in some challenging questions of large corporates, but was purely designed by giving first students experience in for work. And that could be also a model to address the students, your potential pool of knowledge, and bringing them to potential clients who are really eager by the to work with young people.
Yeah.
It was actually very smart to do this.
Yeah. Well, and I think I'm quickly taking a look at the website, like the fact that it's addressing me not as someone who might be unemployed or job seeking, but like I'm a solver. Like that already, for me coming into this, like if I can just imagine myself in the shoes of this audience, I imagine that that's a gratifying way of being kind of drawn into the Black Bear environment.
No, and so they interviewed the students what they wanted. If they join, they say we want experience, so that my position in the market would become better. And the extremely side effect after they join Black Bear is when they go to the market or after they finish their study, suddenly they have on their resume or CV, I worked for ING Bank or Shell or other large companies on specific projects. And then the future employees thinks, oh shit, he has really some experience. So it's a win-win for both. And it's really smart what they have done.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hear from a lot of different directions that it's so incredibly hard. Like everyone wants to hire young people, but they all want them to have 6 years experience.
The problem is, so I worked 20 years in corporate, and I'm going to work for a company in the Netherlands who does recycles or upcycles furniture, second life. So no virgin materials anymore, and they're growing like hell. The problem with corporate, if you ask them, they say, no, we are premium and we are premium service, premium everything, but we pay the average salary. So how can you position yourself as a premium on everything except your most valuable asset, and that's people? Is no, we pay market. No, it's average. No, we pay normal. Doesn't make sense. So then at the end you are not premium because you're paying your most valuable asset the lowest point. So you can't create value anymore in your company. Downside, but not also on the upside. So this is why some of the companies don't like me when I say this.
Well, there's a couple more people in this group who think very much value the honest feedback route.
Yeah.
We were just discussing. Maya is also very much like, in your face feedback, and I think, what do you always say, Maya? That there's no worse phrase than a job well done.
Yeah.
Again, I love that quote.
Yeah.
There are no worse words in English than job well done or good job.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for adding your.
Life comes from I'm sorry. Like now I understand the background of the second life of our sponge. No?
Yeah, for the second life of the sponge.
Yeah, because you were the one to suggest to focus on what happens afterwards, right? Is this where inspiration came from?
Yeah, but many products don't have in a branding strategy or business strategy no life thoughts. It's always about disposing, and we don't care about it. And then suddenly it becomes a problem of the society. I don't think it's fair anymore. It's not fair. So I think it's if a company cares about the environment, they should have also a second life strategy of the products and services that they give or sell.
And even putting it at the forefront, like you suggested, and creating a movement around it, I thought that was really like really way to look at it. That would have made it, had it been a product like really stand.
Good news is the company I'm going to join is growing like hell. We're interviewed on Monday in the Volks, the newspaper. So they had an article, and you can clearly see that they received after this many emails and phone calls of companies who want to do business with them because the story is honest. And they have actually, because I booked the branded change because I had no experience in branding. So I started this a few months ago. And they created actually a very good, not by going to a total plan, but by coincidence, perfect Tony Chocoloni social enterprise. So they have people, all kinds of disabilities who are working there. They don't receive any funding from the government, very profitable as well. So there's actually, my goal will be to make them, to help them to grow. But my target won't be money, but sell social hours for the people who are not able to work or have a different time on the labor market. So that will be my target, to help them. So it's a very different angle, but it's a different kind of business at the end.
Very nice challenge.
Oh, it's all about storytelling at the end.
Yeah, everything is like people don't buy products, right? They buy stories these days.
They still do.
You know.
We are going to get kicked out of this office very soon. Thanks everyone for joining. For those of you who were new, I hope this was a good experience, and I hope you'll come back, and we'll see you next time. If you have suggestions, like I mentioned before, when Jiru is sharing an email with a review link, just with a couple of very simple questions, just let us know, and leave any ideas for what you would like us to focus on next. Thanks for enjoying. And next month, we're going to talk to Bernard Chira about how to build more inclusive brands. And this is a really exciting topic as well, because he's going to really talk us through, like, what does it mean from, all kinds of different, from diversity perspective, from mental, physical abilities. So I think it'll be a really cool one. See you guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.